Kelechi had made it, from the streets of Enugu to the bustling cities of Europe. He worked day and night, rain, snow, sickness. Nothing stopped him. And after 15 long years, he returned to Nigeria, not empty-handed, but victorious. He didn't come back just for show. He came with a purpose, to thank the woman who prayed for him, cried for him, his mother. If you're just tuning in, please subscribe to African Tales by Victo. Give this video a thumbs up and tell us where you're watching from. This story will stay in your heart forever. He built her a mansion, the biggest in their village. And since he had to travel often, he left his wife, Linda, in charge. Please take care of Mama, he begged gently. Linda smiled sweetly. Of course, my husband. She's my mother, too. Kelechi believed her. Why wouldn't he? He sent money, monthly, more than enough for food, care, medicine, and comfort. But what he didn't know was that behind her smile, Linda was hiding a cruel truth. A truth he wouldn't discover until he came home unannounced. And that moment would shatter everything. Kelechi held his mother's hand tightly the day he handed Linda the house keys. Mama, this is your home now, he said softly, his voice shaking with emotion. The old woman smiled, her eyes filled with pride and gratitude. My son, may your days be long. Kelechi turned to Linda, looking her in the eye. Please, treat her like the queen she is. Buy her her medicines, make her meals, and let her rest. That's all I ask. Linda nodded sweetly. She's like a mother to me. I'll care for her with my life. And so, Kelechi left again. His work abroad demanded attention, but his heart remained rooted at home. Every month he sent money, not a little but more than enough. Naira and dollars. Groceries ordered online. Gifts shipped from overseas. Whenever he called, Linda said the same thing. Mama is doing well. She'd even send brief videos of Mama smiling faintly from a chair. Kelechi smiled satisfied, but far away in the village, Mama sat alone most days. No one cooked. No one cleaned. Sometimes she went to bed hungry, but she never complained, because a mother's love never wants to worry her son, not even in pain. Months passed, and something didn't feel right. Kelechi's mother, once full of quiet strength, now sounded weak over the phone. Her voice slower, her laugh forced. When he asked questions, she always replied, I'm fine, my son. Don't worry. But Kelechi's heart started to itch with unease. Put Linda on the phone, he'd say. Linda's voice was always bright. Too bright. Oh, Mama just ate rice and pepper soup, she'd gush. She even danced to old Igbo music this morning. The stories were perfect. Too perfect. But Kelechi tried to silence his doubt. He didn't want to be that man, the one who didn't trust his wife. He'd grown up poor. He'd suffered. And now that he had wealth, he wanted his family to live in peace, together. But one night, after sending money for Mama's hospital checkup, he received no thank you call, no message, nothing. And that silence screamed louder than anything. Kelechi sat alone in his hotel room abroad, staring at his phone. He didn't know it yet, but his world back home had already started falling apart. And very soon, he would see it with his own eyes. Kelechi couldn't sleep that night. He tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling of his hotel room in London. Something was wrong. Deep in his chest, he felt it, that kind of knowing that can't be explained, only felt. He opened his phone, scrolled through old videos of his mother. Her smile, her soft voice, the joy in her eyes when he surprised her with gifts. But lately, those smiles were missing. Then his thoughts turned to Linda. Her voice over the phone was cheerful. Yes, but something about her answers lately had changed. Quick, rushed, dismissive. He remembered how she used to send pictures of Mama with a plate of food, sitting outside enjoying the sun. But now, nothing. No updates. No calls. He'd had enough. Without telling anyone, Kelechi booked a flight home. No announcements. No warnings. If everything was truly fine, there'd be no need for preparation. But if his gut was right, he had to see the truth, unfiltered, raw, real. So he packed his bags, heart pounding. and boarded a plane home, not knowing that what waited behind that gate would break him in ways no betrayal ever had. It was late evening when Kelechi's flight landed in Nigeria. The sun had dipped behind the clouds, casting a soft orange glow across the streets as his car sped through familiar roads. His heart beat faster with every turn, a mixture of dread and hope. What if he was wrong? What if everything was fine? But deep down he knew. Finally, they reached the gate of his mansion. He didn't call, didn't honk. He wanted to see it as it was, not how they pretend. But what he saw next stopped his heart. Just outside the gate, on a thin mat laid on concrete, lay a frail old woman, barefoot, trembling, wrapped in nothing but a worn wrapper. It was his mother. Kelechi jumped from the car. Tears flooded his eyes before he even touched her. "Mama, Mama." She stirred, blinking slowly, her lips dry. "Kelechi, my son." She tried to sit up, but her arms were weak, bones visible, skin pale. Kelechi wrapped her in his arms, sobbing silently. That gate, the one meant to protect her, had become her prison. And behind it, the one he trusted most sat, unaware that her lies had just been uncovered. Kelechi carried his mother in his arms like a child, her head resting on his shoulder, her body limp from cold and hunger. As he reached the front door, he didn't knock. He pushed it open. The sound of laughter greeted him. Not joy, but the sound of carelessness. There, in the living room, sat Linda, dressed in a silk robe, feet on the table, eating roasted chicken and sipping red wine. The television blasted a comedy show as she giggled, completely unaware. Kelechi stood in silence. She looked up, startled, chicken still in her hand. "Kelechi, you didn't tell me you were coming." He didn't speak. He gently stepped aside, revealing the woman in his arms. Her face dropped. "Mama," she whispered. Kelechi's eyes were wet, but his voice was steel. "You said she was fine. You said she was resting." I thought she was inside. Maybe she went out." "You lied," he said, his voice rising. "You watched her suffer." Linda stuttered, but her words fell to the floor like broken glass. And in that moment she knew the home she ruled with deceit had just crumbled around her. That night, the mansion was quieter than it had ever been. No more television, no more laughter, just the ticking of the wall clock and Kelechi's heavy breathing as he sat beside his mother's bed. He had bathed her, fed her, tucked her in like a child. And now, he watched her sleep, tears silently trailing down his face. She had been outside, alone. For how long? Days? Weeks? How many times had she cried out in pain while Linda closed the curtains? How many nights had she shivered while his money bought silk robes and fried chicken? Kelechi clenched his fists. He heard the door creak. Linda stood there, hands shaking, makeup smeared from crying. "Kelechi, I'm sorry," she whispered. He didn't look at her. "I was busy. I didn't know it had gotten that bad. I thought she liked staying outside in the sun." He stood up slowly and faced her. "You buried her alive," he said coldly, "and you smiled while doing it." Linda broke into sobs. But for Kelechi, her tears came too late. Trust, once shattered, doesn't make a sound, but it leaves a silence that screams forever. By dawn, the air in the house had shifted. Kelechi hadn't slept. He sat outside on the front steps, watching the sunrise with swollen eyes and a tired heart. Inside, Mama still slept peacefully for the first time in a long time. But Kelechi knew peace had only just begun its war. He walked into the study and opened the drawer where he kept his private documents. He pulled out a blank sheet of paper and began to write, each word carved pain into the page. "Linda, when I married you, I thought I was marrying a partner, a woman who'd stand beside me, love my family as hers, and build a home with truth. But you failed. Not me, her. And no apology will return the days she spent outside, treated worse than a stray dog." He placed a letter on the dining table. Beside it, divorce papers. Signed. When Linda came out hours later, still in the robe she wore the night before, she found him waiting for her like a silent judge. And for once, she had nothing to say. Because deep inside, She knew she deserved every word. Kelechi stood quietly in the hallway, watching as his mother sipped warm tea from a small cup. Her hands trembled slightly, but there was peace in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. Linda sat across the room, arms folded tightly across her chest, red-eyed and silent. The letter and divorce papers sat untouched on the table, but the message was clear. Kelechi spoke gently to his mother. "Mama, from today, this house belongs to you. I've transferred the documents." She looked up, startled. "But Kelechi, where will you stay?" He smiled softly. "I'll be fine. This place was meant for your peace, not your pain." He turned to leave, dragging his suitcase behind him. Linda rushed forward, tears flowing again. "Kelechi, please. Don't throw away everything we built." He paused, looked her straight in the eyes. "We didn't build this, Linda. I did, and you burned it." She fell to her knees, begging. But Kelechi didn't shout. He didn't curse. He simply walked out, quietly with a heart heavy but free. Some goodbyes don't come with noise. Just footsteps fading, and a door that never opens again. By the next day, the village buzzed with whispers. "Kelechi has left his wife. Did you hear? He gave the mansion to his mother. Linda, the one always posting on Instagram? Ah, she's finished." Neighbors peeked through their windows. Market women paused mid-sale. The story spread like wildfire, every detail twisted, every version more dramatic than the last. Some pitied Linda. Others called it justice. But the one who stayed silent was Mama. She sat on the front porch, wrapped in a clean new wrapper, watching the sky. For the first time, she didn't feel like a burden. For the first time, she felt seen. Inside the house, Linda remained in her room, humiliated, angry, and alone. No more servants. No more deliveries. Everything Kelechi paid for had stopped. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, eyes sunken, pride shattered. Her world had flipped overnight. And now she had to live with the consequences. Not because Kelechi hated her, but because she betrayed the one person he loved more than himself. And when a man's heart breaks like that, sometimes even love can't fix what trust destroyed. Days turned into weeks. The mansion no longer echoed with Linda's laughter or her high heels clicking through the halls. Now, only Mama's soft gospel songs fill the air, gentle, calm, sincere. Linda wandered the corridors like a ghost. No calls, no updates from Kelechi, no money. Reality had hit, and it hit hard. She tried to dial him. He didn't pick. She sent messages, long ones, begging, explaining, blaming stress, even blaming Mama. But Kelechi never replied. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. But it was never him. She sat on the cold kitchen floor one morning, holding a picture from their wedding day. Kelechi smiling, proud, in love. Tears ran down her cheeks as she whispered, "I messed up," because she knew she had turned a blessing into a curse, turned love into silence, turned a man's trust into dust. Mama, now stronger, walked past her, heading outside with her Bible. She didn't stop to talk. That silence from both mother and son was louder than any insult Linda had ever received. And it was in that silence she finally began to feel what true regret truly tastes like. While Linda battled silence inside the mansion, healing had quietly begun outside. Kelechi's mother sat beneath the mango tree each morning, reading scriptures and humming softly. Her cheeks had regained color. Her legs, once frail, now moved steadily across the compound. Neighbors who once whispered now came to visit, offering fruits, company, and apologies for not asking questions sooner. Mama welcomed them all with grace. No bitterness, no anger, just kindness. Because even after everything, she had no space for hate, only gratitude that her son came home in time. Meanwhile, Kelechi kept his distance. He stayed in a quiet hotel in the city, working remotely, rebuilding his peace. But each night he called, "Mama, have you eaten?" "Yes, my son." "How's your leg?" "Stronger, thanks to you." They talked for hours sometimes, and though his voice still carried pain, there was calm in it now. For Mama, Those calls were medicine. For Kelechi, they were redemption. And while one heart healed, another, locked upstairs in her shame, had no one to call, no one to answer, because the walls Linda once ruled now only echoed her own mistakes. One afternoon, as the sun painted golden lines across the compound, a black SUV rolled up quietly to the gate. Mama looked up from her chair under the tree, surprised. Kelechi stepped out, dressed in a simple white native wear, no chains, no show, just his heart, open and raw. Mama, he greeted with a warm hug, holding her tightly. She held him back, tears in her eyes. My son, I missed you. He sat beside her, holding her hand. They talked, laughed, remembered. She looked healthier, peaceful, like the queen he had always wanted her to be. Then, from the balcony upstairs, Linda watched silently, her breath caught in her throat. He had come back, but not for her. She quickly fixed her scarf, rushed downstairs, and appeared at the door, her voice low. Kelechi? He turned calmly. Yes. Her eyes searched for softness, for any sign that he missed her. Can we talk? He stood for a long moment, then shook his head. I'm here for my mother, not for you. And with that, he turned back to Mama. That simple truth cut deeper than any insult ever could, because when love leaves quietly, it never returns the same. The next morning, Linda knocked gently on Mama's door. The old woman turned slowly, resting her Bible on the stool beside her. Good morning, Mama, Linda said, eyes lowered. Mama said nothing at first. She simply nodded, waiting. I came to ask for forgiveness, Linda whispered. I failed you. I failed Kelechi. I was selfish, and I let pride make me blind. Mama studied her for a long time. Forgiveness is not for me to withhold, she said calmly. But you must understand, trust is not forgiveness, and trust is harder to heal. Linda knelt down, weeping. I just want to make things right. I can cook for you now. Clean. Help with anything. Mama gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You can do all those things, but not because you want Kelechi back. Do them because you finally see I'm human, not a chore. Linda nodded slowly, the weight of her guilt heavy on her back. That day, she cleaned Mama's room for the first time, not out of duty but remorse. But whether that was enough to change anything remained to be seen. Some scars fade, others are reminders. Kelechi didn't return to mansion after that visit. He called Mama daily, sent groceries, hired a nurse, even paid for a driver to take her to church. But him? He kept his distance. He had nothing more to say to Linda. At night, he sat in his apartment staring at old photos, him and Linda smiling, Mama laughing in the background. How had it all turned into this? Friends called, urging him to forgive. She made a mistake. Don't throw your marriage away. But they hadn't seen his mother lying outside like a beggar. They hadn't watched his wife lie to his face, then eat chicken while his mother starved. Forgiveness is a door, yes, but some doors, once shut, shouldn't be reopened. Back at the mansion, Linda tried. She made Mama's meals, sat beside her, listened to her stories. But the silence from Kelechi weighed heavier than her shame. She wrote him letters. No reply. Sent voice notes. No blue ticks. She was still in the house, but not in his heart. And that quiet rejection was what truly began to break her. Because now she finally understood what abandonment feels like. One Saturday morning, Linda's father came visiting, a stern man in his late 60s. He had heard the gossip, seen the shame, and now he wanted answers. They sat in the living room. Mama listened quietly from her chair as the tension thickened like smoke. Linda, her father began, you told me you were living well. You didn't tell me you left an old woman outside to suffer. Tears gathered in Linda's eyes. Daddy, I didn't mean, he snapped. You wanted the house, the title, the comfort, but not the responsibility. She sobbed quietly. He turned to Mama, humbly. Please forgive her. I raise her better. Mama nodded gently. She has already asked. But it was what he said next that silenced the room. If Kelechi never comes back, don't blame him. A man may forget disrespect to himself, but he will never forget betrayal to his mother. Those words sank deep into Linda's chest like stones. Later that evening, she sat alone, replaying his voice. Her father, the one who always defended her, had nothing to protect this time, because truth doesn't bend for excuses. It simply stands and waits. That night, Linda stayed up, pen in hand, paper scattered across the table. She had deleted the voice notes, burned the drafts. But this time, she wanted her words to be real, not just a plea, but truth. She wrote, Kelechi, I know sorry means nothing now. I didn't value what I had, not you, not Mama, not the home you built with sweat and sacrifice. I saw her as a burden instead of a blessing. I chose comfort over compassion, and I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm just asking that you know I've changed, not for you, not for show, but because I've seen the worst in myself, and I'm not proud of who I became. She folded the letter gently, placed it in an envelope, then paused. She walked to the gate, stood under the same tree where Mama once sat in the cold, but she didn't send the letter. She placed it in a box outside, like an offering. Sometimes, words are written not to be read, but to release the burden we carry within. Weeks passed. The harm had been done. The silence remained. But Mama, she watched everything and said little. One afternoon, as the clouds gathered and the scent of rain lingered in the air, there was a knock at the door. Linda opened it and froze. It was Kelechi, not with luggage, not with flowers. Just him. She stepped back slowly, unsure. He walked past her, straight to Mama's room. There, he found her sitting at her window, watching birds hop along the fence. My son, she smiled. You came again. He hugged her. I missed you. They spoke softly for a while. Then she turned serious. Kelechi, are you ready to heal? He sighed. I don't know how. She placed her hand on his. Start by letting go. Not for her, but for you. Kelechi nodded slowly. On his way out, he passed Linda in the hallway. She didn't speak, just lowered her eyes. He paused, then said gently, take care of her. Not because of me, because it's right. Then he walked away. And for the first time, Linda didn't feel like the victim. She felt responsible. And maybe that was the beginning of something real. The rains came that night. Soft, steady, and cleansing, like a long-awaited baptism for the house that had seen too much pain. Linda stood by the window, watching it fall. She thought of Kelechi's words. Asterisk, not because of me, because it's right. Asterisk, those words haunted her, but they also healed something. She spent the following days in quiet service, not out of guilt, but from a place of truth. She cooked Mama's meals with care, listened without waiting to speak, cleaned not for praise, but peace. Mama noticed. One evening, as they sat in the garden, Mama turned to her. You are not always like this. Linda looked down. I lost myself chasing things that didn't matter. Mama nodded. And now, I'm trying to find what does. They sat in silence, the kind that no longer hurt. Later that night, Linda returned to the box outside, where she had placed the unsent letter. But it was gone. She never saw who took it, never knew if Kelechi read it. But somehow, she didn't need to know, because healing doesn't always come with answers. Sometimes it just comes with rain. Months had passed. The mansion no longer echoed with tension. No raised voices. No heavy footsteps. Only laughter from Mama's corner. The clatter of cooking pots. The gentle hum of gospel music drifting through open windows. One afternoon, a white SUV pulled into the compound. Linda came out, wiping her hands on her wrapper. She paused when she saw him. Kelechi. He stepped out slowly, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers. Not roses, hibiscus, his mother's favorite. Mama emerged from the house with a walking stick and a bright smile. My son, she called. He hugged her warmly, handing her flowers. You look younger every time. They laughed. sat outside under the same mango tree that once witnessed so much pain. Linda brought out a tray, jollof rice, plantain, and pepper soup. Kelechi nodded in thanks but didn't say much. Before leaving, he turned to her. "Thank you for taking care of her." Linda's voice trembled. "It's the least I could do." He nodded once, then looked at Mama, and with a soft smile said, "I'll visit again soon." As he drove off, the sun broke through clouds. Not every ending is loud. Some just leave behind peace. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this message. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what act of kindness inspired you today. Thanks for being part of this journey. Until next time, remember, even the smallest act of kindness can change a life.